Welcome back. Today we're actually telling some stories that really get under your skin. We've been looking through these accounts shared by listeners' experiences and places that, well, the world seems to have forgotten.
But these aren't just tales about old buildings falling down.
Right.
There are stories about finding something deeply unsettling that's still very much alive in those empty spaces.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to unpack 3 specific unnerving encounters reported from abandoned locations. We want to sort of pull out the key details, try to figure out what makes them hit so hard,
And understand the unexpected risks, the human risks involved in exploring these forgotten corners.
Right. We've got accounts from, a really terrifying discovery deep inside a Nevada mine.
Oh, yeah.
A chilling confrontation in some woods that were supposed to just contain ruins. And a pretty disturbing realization about someone hiding inside a house that looked totally empty. Let's jump into that first one, the mine.
Okay, so this one comes from a traveler. Someone exploring abandoned mines out in Nevada, apparently a frequent traveler on a long road trip.
Right.
And they heard from locals about, hundreds of these old mines and ghost towns just scattered across the state. So they decided to detour. Curiosity, basically.
I totally get that. That urge to see what's left. So they find this specific abandoned mining town. Took about an hour and a half hike to get there, apparently.
Yeah.
Leading to this flat area, maybe, 20, 30 small wooden buildings, and these railroad tracks heading straight into a mine entrance.
And yeah, the mine became the focus. They followed those tracks inside, just had a flashlight. The tunnel was just incredibly long, couldn't see the end at all.
Wow.
And as they went deeper, it got quieter, just their footsteps echoing. After a few minutes, the railroad tracks just stopped. There was this sign.
Saying?
Basically, area beyond is closed.
Which, naturally...
They ignored it, of course.
Standard procedure for explorers, right?
Right, pretty much. And, this is where the danger level immediately ramps up. The tunnel changed. It looked less worked, kind of shallower.
Okay.
Then there was a turn going down a slope, and then bam, a section where the whole floor had just caved in.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the source describes this like makeshift walkway someone had built across the collapse. Looked incredibly unstable, really dangerous. A fall there, you'd be trapped permanently.
Just thinking about that. Trapped in a collapsed mine. Yeah, no thanks. Smart move to turn back from that specific path.
Definitely wise. But they didn't leave the mine completely. They went back and took another side passage they'd noticed earlier.
Okay, still curious.
Right. This one had a ladder. Going straight down into this steep, dark tunnel, they shined the flashlight down. You can see the bottom of the ladder, just darkness.
Ugh. And as they started going down into that deep blackness, they heard something.
Yep. A loud thud, echoing up from below. And the echo made it impossible to tell how far down it was,
Yeah, echoes and tunnels are tricky.
Super tricky. They kept shining the light down, though. And eventually they could see the bottom.
Okay.
So they climbed all the way down. And they found what made the thud it was this large rock just sitting in the middle of the tunnel floor.
Huh.
And the narrator specifically notes it was a different kind of rock than the ceiling or walls, which felt odd, off.
It's a weird detail, like it didn't belong there.
Exactly. And then they pointed the flashlight further down the passage.
And that's the moment.
That's the moment. About 10 feet away, they saw them. 2 people, described as almost unidentifiable. A man and a woman.
Oh, man.
And the narrator said they knew instantly these weren't other explorers. They described their look.
Huh.
This is chilling. Like, they didn't even know I was a person.
Wow.
And, crucially, malnourished and deeply insane.
That description, malnourished and deeply insane.
It just paints a picture. It really does. And you think about the psychological impact of extreme isolation, darkness, harsh conditions. It can profoundly alter someone's state, The narrator's immediate gut reaction was just back up, slowly, towards the ladder. Try not to seem like a threat.
That feeling of dread must have been overwhelming. Reaching the ladder, knowing you have to put the flashlight away to climb in the dark with them down there, agonizing.
Absolutely. And partway up, total darkness, they heard it again. Someone grabbing the ladder rungs below them, starting to climb up fast.
Oh my God, no.
Just the sheer raw terror of that. Hearing someone climbing rapidly right beneath you in the pitch black of a mine, they looked down, couldn't see anything. Just darkness.
Just pure nightmare fuel.
Totally. Started screaming, climbed as fast as they possibly could, burst out of the mine entrance, didn't stop running, just sprinted away from the town entirely once they hit the surface.
Wow. And then on the hike back, your brain starts trying to rationalize, right? Maybe it was just echoes. Maybe their own footsteps sounded like climbing.
Exactly. The mind tries to make sense of it. But that gut feeling, that pure terror, it's stuck. They actually drove to a nearby police station and reported it.
Good.
Yeah, emphasized that the people looked really unwell, malnourished, like they needed help. But as far as the narrator knows, the police never actually searched the mine.
Oh, really?
That's what they said. And it kind of highlights a grim reality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some people do disappear into places like this intentionally if they don't want to be found. Often, they aren't.
Yeah.
The narrator did some digging online later, found cases of couples reported missing from that general area over the last 10 years or so, sometimes runaways, maybe after committing crimes.
So their theory was?
Their theory was that maybe these individuals in the mine were those fugitives, which would certainly explain their condition, their location, and why they reacted that way. It suggests a very real, very dangerous reason for them being there.
Okay, so the takeaway, the nugget from this story, Insight 1. In deep isolation, the human element can degrade into something deeply unsettling, potentially dangerous, existing completely outside society's reach. The way those people were described, that terrifying climb, it suggests that the biggest risks aren't always the crumbling tunnels, right? It's the unpredictable human factor.
Precisely. It really forces you to consider who might be hiding out in such extreme conditions and, frankly, what they might be capable of if you stumbled upon them.
Yeah, a stark reminder. That curiosity needs to be balanced heavily against potential danger. Okay, let's move to the second story. This one's different. Two friends exploring rumors about an abandoned community deep in the woods.
Right, this one starts in a tiny town, like population under 1,000. The narrator and their best friend Glenn, they grew up hearing all the usual small-town creepy rumors, but one really stuck with them. This supposed abandoned community miles out in the woods. Then, in high school, they find out it's actually real. It has a history.
Yeah.
And, well, you know how it is, the pull of forbidden exploration.
Yeah?
They couldn't resist.
That teenage daredevil thing, yeah. So they packed backpacks, water, flashlights, the basics, got some rough directions to a, quote, poorly made trail.
Yeah.
Followed it for about 3 miles, but then the trail just dead end, middle of nowhere. The narrator thought maybe it was just a prank, you know?
Makes sense. But Glenn, the friend, convinced them to keep going. Off trail now.
Yeah.
Pushing through the woods for maybe another half mile.
Okay, getting riskier.
Definitely. And by this point, the sun's starting to go down. Narrator's getting seriously nervous about being lost in the woods after dark.
Right when you'd start thinking, okay, maybe time to turn back.
Exactly. Just as they were about to give up, Glenn spots something. A shape in the distance. Rigid looking. Clearly man-made. They get closer. It's a cabin. Really worn down, broken, roof caved in. But even in that state, it looked like people had been around recently.
That's always a weird sign, isn't it? Decay, but recent activity.
Yeah, unsettling mix. And it didn't stop there. They walked around that first cabin and saw this large field where all the trees had been cut down. And standing in the field, 6 cabins, different sizes, other structures too.
Whoa. So the rumors were true.
Very true. The narrator said finding it was way creepier than they'd even imagined. Houses just falling apart everywhere.
So naturally they went exploring.
Of course. They went into a nearby cabin. It was trashed inside, but still had furniture, chairs, tables, stuff like that still in place. And the sun was setting now, casting these long, eerie shadows everywhere, really adding to the mood.
Setting the scene.
Yeah. And this is where the encounter starts for the narrator. They wander into what looked like maybe a bedroom, and they hear footsteps outside the cabin.
Okay, heart pounds.
Instantly. Turns around, Glenn's not there. So they just freeze. Stay absolutely quiet. Peer through a crack in the wall.
Smart.
Footsteps get closer. Then they catch sight of the person. Described as a tall, older man, maybe mid-50s, half naked.
Yeah.
Wearing clothes that were just torn and disgusting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The man just walked past the cabin. Didn't seem to notice them. The narrator immediately looks around for Glenn again, assuming he must have just left the cabin already.
Makes sense.
So they carefully climb out through, like, a busted window frame, stay hidden behind the cabin, scanning the whole field for Glenn. No sign of him.
Okay, getting nervous now.
Yeah, it assumes Glenn's probably just exploring another house, but seeing that man, combined with the woods getting darker, serious nerves kicking in, and they realize, in their panic, they've lost sight of the man too.
So, alone, getting dark, creepy man somewhere nearby, a great situation. The tension must have been just awful.
Yeah.
And then something happened.
Then it happened. A horrifying scream just echoes from the other side of the abandoned town.
Oh, God, Glenn.
The narrator peers around the cabin and sees him sees Glenn running full speed across the field towards them.
Thank God.
They see each other, lock eyes, and just bolt. Run as fast as they can into the woods, trying to get back the way they came.
Adrenaline pumping. Did they find the trail?
Thankfully, yes. Stumbled back onto that poorly made trail just before it got completely dark, which the narrator says felt incredibly lucky, like beyond lucky.
I bet. So, back home, safe. What was Glenn's story? What happened to him?
Glenn said he'd been exploring a different house. And he got this feeling. It didn't feel abandoned like the others. It felt like someone was living there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So he turned to leave, and the same man the narrator saw, he was standing right there on the other side of the cabin, holding a knife.
Whoa! A knife?
A knife. And Glenn described the man's eyes, said they had a look of hunger. And the man just charged him. No hesitation.
Charged him.
Glenn screamed, and that was the scream the narrator heard, and just ran for his life. Thankfully, the man didn't chase him very far into the field.
Wow. That is terrifying. Just a sudden, violent confrontation?
Absolutely. The narrator's reflection afterwards is really potent. They said, they don't know what the man would have done if he'd caught Glenn, but they fully understood how stupid they'd been to go there, how close they came to it costing them everything.
Yeah, that's a sobering realization. So the insight here feels different from the mine. Insight 2. Not all abandoned places are truly empty. Some are inhabited, maybe by individuals who see trespassers as direct threats to their space, their solitude, and might react with immediate aggression.
Exactly. It really highlights the danger of assuming decay means vacancy. You might be walking into someone's territory, someone who feels they have everything to lose and is prepared to defend it violently.
It adds that layer of potential territorial violence, not just finding someone desperate or lost.
Precisely. The knife, the charge, that signals a clear, aggressive intent. Much different from just wanting to be left alone.
Okay, wow. All right, our final story. This one takes us to a supposedly abandoned house, but this time on farmland.
Right. This involves the narrator and 2 friends, one named Mikey. They're seniors in high school. Classic setup.
Yeah.
Boring weekend night, looking for something to do, some excitement.
The usual.
And Mikey had been talking about this abandoned place nearby he knew about. So they decide, let's go check it out.
Adventure time. So they drive out about half an hour to the edge of town, turn onto an unpaved road, and they find it. A really large house, apparently, sitting on this huge plot of abandoned farmland.
Okay, so they get out, flashlights ready, try the front door, knob turns, but nope, something heavy is blocking it from the inside.
Interesting.
Back door's locked solid, so their only way in. A busted-out window on the side of the house they had to crawl through.
Right away, that blocked front door is a clue, isn't it? Something's off.
Awfully feels intentional. And the moment they crawled inside, they were hit by this smell.
Oh, yeah. The kind...
Overwhelmingly awful. The narrator described it as a mixture of mold and rotting animal carcass. Said it was the worst smell they'd ever experienced. Weirdly, the friends seemed less bothered by it. Just kept going deeper into the house.
Okay. Inside, what did they find? Besides the smell?
Well, they saw footprints in the dust on the floors. Assumed it was probably other teenagers who'd been exploring. But the place itself was described as unnervingly empty.
Empty how? Like, no furniture.
Exactly. No old furniture left behind, no garbage, nothing. Almost like it had been deliberately cleared out. And when they got to the hallway near the front door, they saw what was blocking it.
Yeah.
An old couch with boxes piled against it. Clearly, someone had intentionally blocked that main entrance from the inside and apparently taken everything else out of the house.
Okay, that's really strange. Not just abandoned, but actively managed, secured from within, and stripped clean. Very weird.
Super weird. So they decided to go upstairs, check the rooms there, get to the top of the steps. There are 3 doors. First 2, empty bedrooms. Nothing.
And the third.
Third door leads to another empty room. But it was much smaller than the other bedrooms, which confused them. Because based on the house layout, it felt like that room should have been bigger, like double the size. And there were no other rooms next to it to account for the missing space.
A structural anomaly, adding to the strangeness.
Exactly. So nothing else to see upstairs, really. They start heading back down the stairs. But halfway down, they all stop. They all hear it.
Hear what?
The same sound, coming from upstairs, where they had just been.
Okay. What kind of sound?
Described very specifically.
Oh.
Like a ball hitting the floor, rolling for a second, and then being quickly and intentionally stopped.
Whoa. That's specific and intentional.
Exactly. Not just a random creak or settling noise. came from right where they were standing moments before.
So creepy, unexplained sound. What did they do?
Naturally, they cautiously went back up, checked the rooms again, found absolutely nothing. No ball, no source for the sound.
But they all heard it.
All three heard the exact same specific thing, which, as the narrator put it, made it extra odd and deeply unsettling. No logical explanation upstairs.
Yeah, that would freak me out, knowing you all heard something so specific and there's just nothing there.
Totally. So everyone's getting seriously uncomfortable now. They decide, okay, time to go.
Yeah.
Quickly leave the house the same way they came in through that busted window.
Smart, get out!
They walk around to the car, parked at the front of the house.
Yeah.
Get in. And then, just before they pull away, the narrator notices something. Something about the upstairs windows on the left side of the house.
What about them?
They see two windows up there.
Yeah.
But they specifically remembered thinking about that weird small room.
Yeah.
And realizing it only had one window.
Wait, so a window that shouldn't be there or belonged to a space they couldn't find?
Exactly. That discrepancy. It made them stop and just stare at the windows, trying to process it, trying to figure out what was wrong with the picture.
And as they're staring,
A sudden flicker. A shadow moves across the blinds in one of those upstairs windows.
oh, chills.
Followed by a dim light glowing from behind the window. And in that light, they saw him. The figure of a man looking out at them.
No way, hiding in there the whole time.
It had to be. The car was already in drive. They just slammed it into reverse, did a frantic U-turn, and floored it down that dirt road as fast as the car could go.
I don't blame them. Get out of there.
Seriously. After they got away, Mikey actually convinced them they should call the police.
Good idea. Did the police find anything?
They went out, searched the house, found nothing. Completely empty. The narrator's conclusion was just that whoever had been there had cleared out fast, probably taking everything with them right after they left.
Wow. That hidden room, the blocked door, the smell, the sound, the figure, it all points to someone actively hiding.
Right. And the narrator's final thought on it is pretty telling. They were just incredibly glad they hadn't pushed harder trying to find the source of the sound upstairs. They genuinely believed whoever was hiding in there was prepared to take drastic measures to avoid being found.
That feels like the key nugget here, doesn't it? Insight 3. Some seemingly abandoned structures aren't just empty, they're being actively used as covert hideouts. And the occupants might be prepared to go to extreme lengths to protect that secrecy, suggesting motivations tied to evasion or something hidden.
Exactly. It's a different flavor of danger compared to the others. It's less about maybe mental state due to isolation or overt territorial aggression, and more about deliberate concealment. Someone who absolutely does not want anyone to know they exist in that space.
Right.
Which implies a whole other set of potential reasons, and maybe even more unpredictable reactions if they are discovered.
So we've recounted these 3 pretty unsettling stories, right?
Yeah.
Mine, the woods, the house.
Yeah, and they really reveal these layers of risk that go way beyond just, crumbling buildings or falling through a floor. The pull of abandoned places, that curiosity, it's real. But these accounts show that sometimes those hidden corners harbor unexpected and frankly dangerous human elements.
That's the thread connecting them, isn't it? It's not just about finding ruins, it's about finding people who are described as malnourished and terrifying, or aggressive and armed, or deliberately hiding, and maybe desperate not to be found. These sources really highlight how pushing past warning signs, both literal signs and just that gut feeling, can lead you face to face with these really unpredictable, sometimes frightening realities.
And these stories underscore that the why behind these encounters often involves people living completely outside the norms of society. Whether they're just desperate for shelter, or maybe they're actively hiding, evading something.
Right.
Or maybe they just seek total isolation and are prepared to defend it fiercely. It really makes you think about what drives someone to live like that and what you might actually find when you step completely off the map.
Powerful and definitely unsettling stuff. You've joined us as we've recounted these unnerving accounts today. If you want to hear more explorations of chilling stories and mysteries like these, you can find us over on Horror Docs. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel there if you enjoyed this.
And maybe as you navigate your own curiosity, whether you're physically exploring somewhere new or just digging into hidden information, maybe take a second to consider this. How do you personally balance that drive for discovery against the potential for encountering unexpected, unsettling truths, or even dangers lurking just beneath the surface? What are you really prepared to risk to find out what's hidden?